Should or shouldn't you be marinating your barbecue ribs? And if you should, then how should you do it? They might sound like easy, simple questions, but they're really not. Because if you're really getting into smoking ribs, then you need to know the difference. And you should also be able to separate the genius from the madness. And marinating ribs is
on the edge.
So I will show you how to marinate ribs properly, what to marinate with, and I will compare it for you to normal smoked ribs. And to do this comparison, I bought 2 racks of ribs. One to marinate and one to do the classic barbecue ribs. Of course, I'm going to start with the marinade because that is the first thing that I need to do, because marinating takes at least 4 hours. The first ingredient to my marinade is going to be pineapple. Now, this is a baby pineapple, but you can use a regular pineapple because, well, it's just the only ripe pineapple that I can find. All you need to do is just cut off the skin, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're gonna throw it away again. I will also be using half an onion, and mine's real small, so I'm gonna just take a whole one, and 2 garlic cloves. And I'll put that in my blender, together with half a cup of apple juice and a tablespoon of Worcester sauce. But that's not the real magic trick. The real magic trick is this. That, my friends, is called Achiote. Well, I say it Achiote. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but it's Achiote, Achiote, something like that. And it's also named as Annatto. It's a bright red spice made from the Achiote tree seeds. It has an earthy but at the same time bright, super powerful flavor that's used in a lot of Mexican marinades, especially in combination with acidic fruits. And I'm adding about 25 grams of it to my marinade. And the final thing that I'll be adding is a little bit of ginger. Ooh, John Deere, old one, definitely old. With a plow. What is he plowing? It's not plowing season, right? If you're making marinades, you can always base it on 2 things, oil or acidity. And in this case, of course, we got plenty of acidity from the fruit, so I don't need to add oil to it. There's one thing that I do need to add, and that is salt. I'm going to add about half a tablespoon of salt to this marinade. And that might seem like a lot, but we're not actually eating the marinade. We just want the flavor to penetrate. For that to happen, I need the osmosis effect. And osmosis effect is when salt on a cellular level, it goes into the cells with the salt. If there's no salt, it doesn't go in, either salt or sugar. Of course, you have natural sugars, but you also need the salt. And of course, salt also helps with boosting the flavors. I need power. This might seem really random, but there's actually a power outlet on the back of my grill. Give me the power. Give me the power. See, what would you do if you didn't have? There we go. Look at that, baby back ribs, my absolute favorite. They're so beautiful and so tasty. And that's because on top of the ribs, you got this nice piece of thick meat that's going to be very juicy and tender. And who doesn't love a juicy and tender rib, right? Just get this floppy bit off, and then these ribs look pretty good, but I've got this membrane on the back. Now you have 2 options. Either you remove the membrane completely or you score it. Now with the marinade, that's not really an option between them. You really have to move the membrane, because otherwise the whole marinating process doesn't make any sense. And it's gonna do what it needs to do. So if you don't remove it, even if you cut into it, you're kind of lowering the chances of the marinade to penetrate the meat. So getting rid of it is the way to go. And then all there's left to do is just put a little bit of foil on and leave it in the fridge for at least 4 hours. Of course, I also have some reference baby back ribs, and since the other ones have been marinating for 3.5 hours, it's about time that I get these ready. Now, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna remove the membrane, and with these ribs, you actually can score them, and as a matter of fact, if you enjoy it, do score them, because you can have a crunchy bottom that can be extremely tasty. But I'm just going to take some Pitmaster pork seasoning, season the bottom first, and then flip it over and season the top. And by seasoning the ribs a half hour before you begin, you give the seasoning an opportunity to stick to the meat. But not only that, you also let the flavor penetrate the meat. So it's not just stuck on the surface, it's part of the actual rib. Of course, that's not going to be enough for a full brine. but it definitely helps with developing flavors. And in the meantime, we can focus on the marinated ribs because they kind of have a unique look. And that's because of bromelain. Bromelain is a proteolytic enzyme, meaning it breaks down proteins. It targets muscles and degrades connective tissue, so it makes the structure of the meat weaker. But if you translate it, it tenderizes the pork. And that's why you gotta have pineapple. Fair warning, don't use pineapple to marinate overnight because everything will just fall apart, and we definitely don't want that. I removed most of the marinade, but I wanna keep that nice orange look that we got, so I didn't rinse it off on the water. And I'm just gonna season it with a little bit of Pitmaster's pork seasoning. If you have thick pork ribs like these, you wanna make sure you season the sides as well. For today's smoker, I've got a unique piece because it looks like a gas grill, right? Well, yay, train stopping by. I don't know, it beeps at me every time. I think it just likes barbecue so much. I hope it never stops though, because I don't have food enough for all those people. What I was saying is that this actually looks like a gas grill because it has a gas bottle. And it's basically gas fat. But I don't necessarily think that this is a gas grill. I actually think this is more of a smoker. You see, in this drawer, there is a grate. And if you put a chunk of smoke wood in this grate, and since you have a really large chamber, it has all the characteristics of a smoker. It's a gas-fired smoker. That's what it is. As you can see, this thing produces plenty of smoke, and I'm still playing around with it. We're using chunks, using chips, using pellets, and figuring out which flavor profile fits best to this barbecue and the amount of smoke that it generates. But you see my point, right? Where it stops being a gas grill and becomes a smoker. Now let's close that lid and actually get it up to temperature. I'm gonna push indirect and I'm going to decide on what my temperature's gotta be. It's currently set at 170. I'm gonna tune it down. I wanna be at 140. And now it's going to think about it and tell me which knobs to turn. And you see, it now tells me to turn these knobs. Ignite it. Now, officially, you have to do this with the lid open. That will prevent a possible explosion and safety first and things like that. So don't mind me, just do what you need to do and what you should be doing. All I need to do is put the ribs on. You can see that these two burners are still off. These are on, this one is on, and that means this is going to be my indirect zone. So that is where I will place my ribs. First my reference rack, and then the marinated rack. I'm gonna plug in the probes to keep my eye on the temperature of the ribs, close the lid, and let the barbecue do its job. Now the cool thing is that I can just run this fully automatically, but I can also switch it with one knob to fully manual and have full control. I'm not gonna do that because I'm enjoying this way too much. But you can, if you want to. The thermometer indicates that the core temperature of the ribs is now 70 degrees Celsius, which means we're gonna take a look at them. We can see that the ribs that I only seasoned with the barbecue seasoning are a little lighter in color than the ribs that I marinated. But it probably also has to do with the flavor that penetrated the meat. Now these are the ribs that I seasoned with a little bit of barbecue seasoning, and they actually look amazing. We got some perfect results from smoking, and now I need to focus on getting them cooked. Now, I also like to add a little bit of butter to the ribs. That's just my personal preference. And I also like to add a little bit of dark brown sugar. A couple of tablespoons will do the job. Now I'm gonna wrap it up, make sure it's nice and tight. Hold it up once more, get it packed in, and get it ready to go back on the barbecue. I'm gonna do the same thing with the marinade ribs. A little bit of butter, a little bit of sugar, wrap it up, and I'm just gonna keep continuing to let these ribs cook. The barbecue is gonna do all the work for me. I don't have to worry about anything. It's protected in the fall, it's got a little bit of butter. It's like they're having a nice moment, these ribs. Just leave them be. Just keep them running at 140. It's probably gonna be another hour or so. And the smoking process, that took 2.5 hours. Now, that is really short compared to like an offset smoker, for instance, but it's because of the radiation heat inside the gas barbecue. And if you're a bit worried about that, don't be, because if you look at the outside of the ribs, oh, the crust looks amazing. It's been 1.5 hours and it's time to take the ribs off. Now, the way that I check these to see if they're done is that I unwrap them Now I don't want to aim for temperature, even though I know they're going to be done at probably around 96 degrees Celsius. Because what I really want to do is take my chef temp thermometer and stick it into the ribs and see if they're soft and tender. And boy, these ribs look absolutely freaking delicious. They look really juicy, tender, and super tasty. We got great smoke color, I got perfect tenderness, and there's one dead giveaway on which one of these is the marinated version. Look at that. We got a little bit of darkness on these ribs. And that's not just because it was in a hotter zone than the other one. That's because of the sugar in the marinade. Not the added sugar, but the sugar from the fruit. Is that a problem? No, that's not a problem. Except for that one uncle that's gonna say, hey, that's burnt, man, I don't wanna eat that. Then I would say, fine, just leave it to me, I'll eat it. Because it's time to start slicing. I hope these ribs are not too tender. Carefully, oh yeah. Let's take a look at the inside of these marinated ribs. Extremely juicy, extremely tender. Look at that, aren't they beautiful? And I'll bet you if I pull that bone, it just comes straight out. Little twist action right there, boom. That bone popped out like it's nothing. And that is what you call tenderness. Of course, I'm just gonna give this a try because, yeah, no need for explanations. There we go. It's soft, it's tender, but it's flavorful. Marinated ribs done right. So tasty, so delicious. And look how clean that bone is. Let's do the comparison with the regular rack of ribs. Basically, we're just pouring on that caramel, butter, and sugar. Now let's slice into this. Hopefully it's not too tender and we can find the right bone. There we go. That is soft. I'm just gonna try and get a clean cut. Look at how we picked up a smoke ring on these ribs, where we didn't pick a smoke ring up on the marinated ribs. And that is saying something. So these actually pick up smoke better. Still, are they good ribs? Are they juicy? Are they tender? Well, I'd say they're tender, I'd say they're juicy, but there's really only one right way to find out. There we go. Wow. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Oh my. There are two big differences between marinated ribs and not marinated ribs. Of course, flavor. The flavor of the marinated ribs is a little bit more intense in the sense that you get more flavor from marinade. The second is the structure of the rib. It is more tenderized, especially when you use a pineapple or an ananas. It's a trigger word in the Netherlands. Because of the bromelain, it just breaks down the meat and it makes the meat more tender. But if you're a pork rib aficionado, you might argue that you like the structure of the pork and you like the pork flavor over the marinated experience. Personally, I like to mix it up and every now and then just try marinated ribs and do something different because it will keep me eating pork ribs forever. Hey, Jim, you wanna try?
Oh.
Nice?
I was so hungry.
Yeah, you look skinny almost.
No, was looking at ribs for a whole day.
Good. Hungry, more.
More.
This is an important job. It's not about the quantity, it's about the flavor. Which one is which? Which is the marinated and which is the non-marinated?
This one's marinated.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How can you tell?
Has so much flavor.
Yeah.
Goes like in depth.
So you like the marinated one better?
Yeah.
There you have it, guys. Give it a try. See you in the next video. Until then, eet smakelijk and keep on grilling. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, buddy.